Good morning to those online and to those of you in the room. Thank you for joining us for our second annual Small Business Workshop here at the beautiful Assembly Building in downtown Norfolk. Eileen, Brewer, and myself, we're going to go over just some housekeeping items really quick, and then we're going to start with our presentation. So again, welcome everyone. For those online, you are in a webinar, so there is the Q&A feature in there that as we go through presentations, you can ask your questions in there. Obviously in the room, there'll be time at the end of any presentation for you to raise your hand and we'll do questions there. Eileen, I'm going to turn it over to you for just some assembly.
Great. Hi, good morning. Thank you, everyone. Just some housekeeping. There are restrooms in the back of this floor, but there's only two. If you go down one floor, just take the stairs down to the fourth floor there and go to this corner of the building. There's some restrooms there. And then on the first floor, same. If you go to this corner of the building, there are more restrooms there. When you're in the room and you're asking questions, no one online can hear you unless you have a microphone. So even though you have a loud voice and you can speak across the room here, no one online can hear you. So when you're asking questions, please wait until we hand you a microphone so that we can all hear you. And then if you need anything, if you're missing anything or need anything, please come to myself or Haley in the back, and we will help you figure out whatever you need. The Wi-Fi password is on the board over there if you need it. We don't know how well or how strong it will be once we have 80 of you on there, but that's what we've got. And I think that's it. Yeah, you can use this outside rooftop space all you want. Look, we are providing a full lunch for you. We have breakfast and lunch sponsors. There's no donation box needed today. And you can take your lunch outside or on the first floor. We ordered 70 lunches, so I think we'll be all right.
Thank you. All right, and with that, everyone should have an agenda on their seat so you can kind of keep track of where we are throughout the day, and I'll have it pop up here throughout the day as well. So with that, we'd like to bring up our breakfast sponsor, which we're very thankful for, Ms. CJ Spady with Fahrenheit Advisors, and she's going to go through a little bit about her company. So come on up, CJ.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, great. I was like, am I going to have to ask them to bring it? Fahrenheit is delighted to be your breakfast sponsor this morning. My name is CJ Spady. I'm managing director for Fahrenheit and the 757 market leader. We sit here in Assembly, home to the 757 Accelerator, the Collabs, 757 Angels, and all the wonderful efforts that they do to support the ecosystem here, the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in 757. I act as a mentor in the Collab system, and it's been my pleasure to do that and to be with a lot of, let me kick this forward. Yeah, you do it. Thank you. So it's been my pleasure to serve as a mentor and to be involved in the ecosystem. Fahrenheit Advisors was born out of Richmond, Virginia's Lighthouse Labs. Lighthouse Labs is very similar. If you might be familiar with it. If not, it's very similar to the 757 Collab. There's an accelerator there. There's angel investors there, etc. So Fahrenheit was born out of that system. So it truly understands what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to be a scaling, growing company. A little over a decade ago, Fahrenheit was started by two founders that just met with anybody that would meet with them in a Panera. They were just like, I see a smile, that's sometimes how you start a business. And so today, Fahrenheit Advisors is 140 strong, consultants delivering great services to companies all over the state of Virginia and other states. So let's next slide. So I'm going to do a quick audience poll, and for those online, I'm going to go old school here. I'm just going to look for a raise of hands. So who in the room is actively working on a business concept? Otherwise, your ideas and ideation. Just a Raise a hand, anybody? Okay, we got a good 10. That's awesome. Who's moved beyond just having a business concept and you actually have revenue, people, anybody in the room that's there? Okay, all right, all right. And then who's reached $1 million in sales? Oh, good job. All right, seeing some good hands. Hey, it's all good. There's no bad answers on that. Entrepreneurialism is a journey. And it's truly, in my opinion, it's more like a triathlon. It's not a marathon. It's like a non-ending triathlon because you have to keep changing your equipment. You have to keep changing what you're doing. Next slide. I've recently been researching how Silicon Valley in the 1960s through present day created the greatest increase in economic wealth. It's truly a personal journey, and I'll tell you why. I'm originally from here, and in the 1980s, when I graduated, I felt the glass ceiling right here, so I left market, and I ultimately ended up in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I was there for almost 30 years, and I moved there in 1991. We moved back here in 2018, and so I was an eyewitness to that increase in economic wealth. And so I'm back here now and I'm like, why? Why did they have that increase in economic wealth out west and we didn't? So it's well documented that the Department of Defense, the funding that came from the Department of Defense was instrumental in the growth of Silicon Valley. But here's the thing. I was born in a family of a NASA family. Department of Defense was spending money here, like in substantial portion. And so over that period of time where Silicon Valley went up, we were generally, in comparison, stagnant. So the question is why, and that's been my personal quest to look at that. So when we think about what happened out there, we typically hear about the brilliance of Gates, Zuckerberg, Musk, Jobs, the venture capitalists that funded them off a napkin sketch. But there were so many more people involved. There was an ecosystem. There were many, many players. There were mentors, inventors, innovators. There was the fail quick, fail often, and general embrace of failure that was unique to that area at the time. There was a lack of non-compete. Many people don't know that. Or the enforcement of non-compete. So the free flow of talent moved around in that area where free flow of talent can be restricted in some cases. But most importantly, there was a lot of people involved. It wasn't just Jobs and Gates and those guys. There was a ton of people involved, and I'm learning more and more. Even though I was there in that area, I'm learning more and more about everything that was going on because there were so many people involved. So if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So wherever you are on your entrepreneurial journey, these are good words to ponder. So in the vein of going together versus alone, next slide. Businesses often need expertise that they don't have in-house. So Fahrenheit Advisors specializes in business advisory, finance and accounting, human capital, sales advisory, and executive search. And sometimes a business, especially in the growth mode, needs a little extra something that they don't have, but they can't pay for it full time. And that's the gap in the market that Fahrenheit looks to serve. Fahrenheit Advisors maintains a flexible model so that a business only has to buy what they need to get through the hurdles that they're experiencing. Next slide. Fahrenheit Advisors is made up of a group of folks who've been there and done that. They've been with others in their journey, and so they can provide insights, direction, and guidance. If you can learn from somebody else's mistake or from somebody else's success, that means you're going to get going where you want to go a lot faster. So each person on our team has seen many businesses over their career and has a unique set of skills to assist businesses big and small. So next slide. Fahrenheit has been serving growth-oriented businesses for well over a decade. Our goal is to remove obstacles in the way of business success. So across the lines that you just saw. As you grow your company or you participate in the growth of a company that someone else grows, know Fahrenheit is there to help you solve the tough challenges. Time is money, so the sooner the roadblocks are removed, the sooner you and your business can continue to move forward. So next slide. So if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Let us know when we can help. I believe there's so many reasons to believe that now is the time for 757 to experience substantial economic growth, not unlike that experienced by Silicon Valley in the past. Will you be one of the many drivers that causes the 757 to have a booming economy of tomorrow? Asking for help can be the difference between success and failure. I've seen it as I've gone through my career. What help will you need along the way, and who will you call? The next slide. Thank you for giving me your attention for the last 15 minutes. Enjoy your day as you hear from many who can go there together with you. And later today, if any of you have a moment you want to spend asking a question or two, I'm going to be around 2:30. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ. All right, and next we're going to have some welcoming remarks. Bear with me for just a minute. I'm going to have Mr. Scott Bewley come off mute. I'm going to mute us here in the room, and he's going to do an introduction from NavalX. So Scott, I'm going to bring you off mute and quickly take myself, put us on mute so we don't have any echoes.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, you can hear me. All right. Okay, if you can hear me, I got a text here from Gerrold saying you can hear me. So is that correct? Gerrold, can you text me one more time, because I'm on my iPad and not my phone. Okay, good. All right, thank you very much for having me. My name is Scott Bewley. I'm the Deputy Director for the NavalX organization. Captain Casey Plouffe sends his regrets he couldn't make it today. He's doing a lot of traveling right now around the country and other places, and had an event today with senior leadership in the Pentagon. So let me just give you a quick overview here, no more than 5 minutes, about what NavalX is and what we're trying to do. If we could go to the next slide, that'd be great. Okay, so recently, and the NavalX itself has been around since about 2018, but in a way, they've been working more on the culture side of how do we teach innovation across the naval organization, and people think differently. And recently, here in the summer of 2022, we went to NavalX, we call it 2.0. Where we were told, hey, we want you to do more than just focus on teaching people how to be innovative. We want you to actually deliver things as well. So we have 3 lines of effort that we put together. One was Tech Bridge operations, innovation operations, and culture campaign also stayed with us. And what we're trying to do is what we've identified is there are 3 business sectors within the military acquisition organizations. Number 1 is the research organization, which goes from that lab to prototype. And then I think all this, if you're a small business and you've been working in a small business initiative research program, then you're probably familiar with that as you come through a SBIR phase 1, a SBIR phase 2 type of activity to get yourself to a prototype type of thing. And then the second business sector is the business of innovation. This is something that is basically missing within the acquisition environment of the military, and specifically in the Department of the Navy acquisition environment. So we at NavalX are focusing on that. When we maybe hear people say the valley of death and how do you transition and how do I get into a program record? Generally, that's where the problem is, and that's where as we just heard, the talking about investment culture, capital, venture capital, and things like that. Those components of business that take more risk, that enable the development of the prototype or the capability or the technology into a product and into then scaling into the marketplace is generally not well understood and organizationally not really there in the military. And so lately the military has been focusing on how do we do this and how do we accomplish this type of this mission. And then of course the third business sector that we have is the acquisition business sector, where we go from a product now that's been delivered at some sort of low rate initial production, and then we're in a program of record essentially that receives a steady flow of funding, and that is then scaling of that product out to the warfighter or the marketplace, if you will. So that are the three things, the three business sectors, and we are focused on that middle one, the innovation piece of it. How do we build that sector? How do we do the scanning through our tech bridges into the world of research with prototypes and things that are coming up through and maturing in technologies? Where's our technologist, the business person, the champion, the problem that we're trying to solve, and how do we then invest basically with public capital, partner with private capital to transition that capability or the technology into the marketplace, so the warfighter can have it rapidly with agility and be able to iterate on it. And we feel like this is a component in the military that is basically missing today. We don't think this is an ad hoc process. This isn't happened by chance. Although if you look at the innovation things that have happened in the military in the last 20, 25, 30 years, most of the time those things did happen by chance. And so we have several use cases that we apply and talk to senior leadership about as we try to build this organization for the Navy. Okay, next slide. All right, so I talked about this transition from NavalX 1.0 to 2.0. When we went to 2.0 this past summer, the Navy had stood up in the last couple of years, or 3 to 4 years, several innovation offices in the Navy to kind of do a trial and error about how they should go down, what path they should go down. They recently, here in last summer and early fall, combined all those programs together. So NavalX 1.0 with its culture campaign was combined with the Digital Integration Support Cell, which was working on digital transformation, digital modernization across the Navy. Also combined with the technology accelerator groups, of which were known as Code 36 and Office of Naval Research. Those things were like the DoN Small Business Program, the DoN Tech Transfer Program, that are the authorities to do that. So all of that has now been combined up and under NavalX's banner, and we have been for the last 6 months trying to organize that into an office basically and a command within the Navy, establish a budget, get our name branding out there, get organized and understand how to interact with our tech bridges and how to then transition capability to the fleet. So that's what we're trying to do in NavalX. Next slide. All right, I talked about the culture campaign. This is basically top to bottom, bottom to top. We are educating senior leaders on hey, this is what innovation is about. This is how we do it, because they frankly don't really understand that that's not what they do for their careers. They're operators or warfighters, and so the people who control the purse strings are not business people. So we're teaching them how to be business people. Additionally, we are then going from bottom up, where we are teaching those sailors and junior officers on the deck plates, hey, here's what an innovation looks like. Here's how to identify a problem. Here's how to articulate the problem and feed the problem up into the process. Then, of course, we have outreach to universities across the country and educational institutions that we're trying to then inculcate this culture of innovation into the military. Next slide. All right, and innovation operations. So I described this pretty well before. This is that middle business sector where we have a problem that's given to us from the fleet. It's not a requirement yet. It's just a problem that they identify. We go and rewrite that problem so that businesses, non-traditional and traditional, can see their technologies in that problem versus just an operational problem that maybe if you don't have any military experience, you don't really understand with all the jargon and acronyms and things like that. So we get rid of all of that so that, and we push that out across the various ecosystems that we're trying to develop, Tech Bridges being one of those. We receive back, hopefully from those organizations, different technologies that can solve the problem. And then we mature that, curate that, and then deliver that to the fleet and then the fleet's able to then to iterate on it, build tactics, techniques, and procedures from it, as well as while we're doing this process, we're collecting actual cost data, maturing the vendor base, and refining the requirement that then becomes eventually a program of record. So the program of records, think of that as like production. And then, so if we do our job right in NavalX, then for small businesses, that should really help you as you come through the SBIR phase 1 and 2 program to get to a SBIR phase 3, which is getting to a transition and a long-term, basically funding source as you go from product to scale. Next slide. Tech bridges are a big part of this. These are our arms and legs of NavalX. They're all over the country. These are the ecosystems that are being built and developed around the authorities that the Navy has to do tech transfer, which is a spin out of technology from those warfare centers to enable those technologies to be found and incorporated. Right. And today we're meeting with the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge, one of our more mature tech bridges, I might add. All right, next slide. Okay, this is where we are, the NavalX enterprise offerings. So the culture campaign piece, we talked about innovation operations and tech bridges. And so that's what we have that we're trying to put together today. We're still a little bit young and nascent in this organization. This takes time as we try to work with Congress on our budget and the messaging pieces that go with how we intend to execute, why this is important to the overall business ecosystem for the military. The questions that we get from Congress are things like, hey, how come we don't see a Google turn into a Google, basically? You know, how come there's no new Lockheed Martins out there that are building up? How come there's no new Raytheons that are coming together? So they're very focused at the congressional level on small business and those things that small business can provide that can grow and become the next generation of national security companies that they provide the capability to the military. So with that, I'll take any questions and that somebody may bring along. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have a short survey at the end of the event. If you complete the short survey, we will send you all the slides, both online and in person. It's a very short survey. We have found it's a great way for us to get the data we need so you can get the data you need. All right, here we go. So we have a few minutes where we can take a few questions. If you have a question in the room, then go ahead and raise your hand and we'll go ahead and do some questions. If you have questions online, there's a Q&A option. You can drop your question, type your question into the Q&A option. Do we have any questions in the room?
Hi, my name is Sharina Mendoza, and I have a digital marketing agency. And I'm wondering, how do we engage with you to figure out what the opportunities are to see how we can help with your mission?
Oh, Gerald, can you answer it? Or on, otherwise we gotta do the whole mute unmute.
Hey, Scott, you want to address that question?
Yes, sure. So I'm not really aware of exactly what you said, digital marketing. We have been working on some marketing type of activities right now to try to make sure we're branded and make sure we have the digital tools that we need so we can collect the data and things like that. We have digital tools that we're looking at to help us in that world where companies can contact us. We keep a database of who's reaching out to us, what their technologies are, and be able to follow up with that in a better way. As technologies appear, we're able to then scan the databases to see what things are out there that we've done before. So we're trying to develop a whole digital environment online at the IL2, which is these are impact levels within the military of base security levels of cloud. IL2 is basically an open internet that we all use at home. IL5 is closed kind of within the military, and you need required like PKI security encryption to get into it and things like that. So we're trying to work on environments that enable industry and government to and academia to collaborate and work together in the cloud, and be able to share digital data back and forth. This is something that's a really hard problem. So if you have ideas about this and know how to and how we can facilitate this, this is something that I think overall the military and the Navy are struggling with. So if you have some digital ideas, then that'd be great to reach out.
Thanks, Scott. We did have one that I said we answered live, but I'm going to answer it right now. So John, you had asked online if NavalX is only for SBIR award winners. Is it required to first win a SBIR before getting help from NavalX? And you do not need to win a SBIR to get help from NavalX. And in particular, Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge, we just started opening up the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month where there's a link, it's on our LinkedIn. If you go to the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge and follow us on LinkedIn, you'll see where you can sign up for that to have 30 minutes in front of the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge and other tech bridges as well, and brief your capabilities, and we can give you feedback and plug you in different areas. So that is not a requirement. I'm going to do one more question and then we'll have to move on. So Charlie, let me do one, finish this one, but Scott, so Carol online asks, how is NavalX dealing with the culture issue of total risk aversion, which is often fatal to innovation? And I think you touched on it, but if you have anything else you wanted to add.
That's a really hard problem in the military. So the military acquisition world is focused, and on all the funding and requirements and everything that we do is based on building that product in production. So when you hear about the PEOs organization, the program managers, and all of that that organizational structure that we have, that's all production, and it's cost, schedule, performance with kind of a risk. Lower the risk as much as possible because I don't want to be disrupted in my cost, schedule, performance, and they have to report to Congress and things like that. So we're trying to educate the senior leadership that we need to do something differently. That and the research organizations, and I mentioned, they're struggling too because they have a hard time. They get all this technology and things they put together up to that prototype level, and then just can't get it into a program record. If I'm on a program record and I'm trying to build my thing, well, the last thing I need is, I would think, is what they always tell me is they don't like it when a small business or another disruptive type of capability comes in Everybody, some admiral says, I want to put that into that system. That's really cool. Well, nobody gave any additional money and nobody gave a requirement for it. So that's where NavalX is really trying to fill the gap right here, right? And the story that we're trying to tell, and the advocacy we're trying to make is we need to have some resources that we're calling government capital, that we can make investments, just like what happens in the venture capital, private capital world in the commercial marketplace, so that companies can come to NavalX and say, I got this really cool thing, and not only are we able to then mature that thing and deliver it to a fleet customer or any customer in the military that might need it, but also also help that transition into a program of record, by investing in that and modifying that landing pad, so the cost, schedule, performance risk doesn't fall on the program manager of the production. You know, the analogy I always give to senior leadership is, if I'm the pickup truck assembly line and that multifunction tailgate needs to get added to the back of the pickup truck, who pays for that? It's not the production line guy. It comes out of R&D as a prototype. Somebody then has to do the business of innovation to pull that through up to a product, mature the vendor base and deliver it. And then somebody's got to come into the production line and put that button on the dash and the remote control thing on the key, so that that tailgate will open automatically and do the multifunction things it's supposed to do, right? And that's a difficult conversation to have when the leadership of the Navy is so inculcated and ingrained and in the way we do business today, with PEOs and program managers in this production world. And then it's hard too, because in those portfolio of systems, they have a lot of one-star admirals who say, we already do this. We're already doing this. We can do this, right? Because there's a lot of control about money. So it's definitely an educational thing, and we're breaking through. And there's a lot of interest in Congress right now of how to get these type of capabilities from small business into the system. So yeah, I always tell small businesses and companies, if you have congressional outreach, this is a great messaging thing that you can tell your local congressman, hey, this is what we need to go do. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. We'll take one last question in the room.
Hey, Scott, thanks so much. So my questions basically follow on from what you were saying previously. If there are existing contracts, existing work that aren't as agile, aren't modernizing in the ways that they should, don't have QA standards, don't have KPIs that are well designated, like, is there a process to engage with you guys to help bring customers within the DoN up to speed or into a more agile stance, and to work with you guys to kind of improve future phases?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and the one of the examples I give of innovation that happened by chance, basically in the acquisition world, was a really big deal, and that happened to the submarine community when they, in the late 90s, they modernized their whole way of doing business, and disrupted the big prime Lockheed Martin in Manassas. It went from a controlling everything to a large scale integrator that today, that Lockheed Martin company says, look at all the small businesses that work inside my organization that are building software and putting it into the submarine combat system. Look at all these companies all over Manassas and Virginia that popped up around me that are supporting the Virginia class submarine, right? And that all happened because of a congressional ad. So a capital, it didn't matter if it's congressional ad, but that's a form of capital, horizontal capital coming into the organization. And somebody in that organization, the government, understood what the problem was and how to best utilize that capital. So NavalX is looking at like situations and use cases like that, and we tell people, hey, we're bottling all that kind of stuff up to make it less ad hoc or by chance, and we're developing the workforce in NavalX to go do that work and make those investments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. So Scott, in the essence of time, we've got to keep moving on, but I don't know how long you'll hang around. If anyone had any questions to ask online, if you wanted to take a look at those, but we really appreciate you dialing in to get us started here. But we also have the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge staff is here as well, and Gerrold's going to do a quick introduction now. So thank you again, Scott.
All right, thank you. And I'll stay around for a minute, and if there's any questions in the Q&A, I'll try to answer those.
Great. Okay, at this time, we're going to do a quick intro from the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for attending this event. I'm going to be very succinct in my comments to keep us on time. The Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge is one of those 18 tech bridges that Scott referenced earlier across the country. We're the local representative for NavalX. We're very much so focused on this region as well as the technical focus areas that our sponsoring commands are interested in. My command is NavalX Atlantic. We have two co-directors, Dr. Julie Stark from NSWC Carderock and Mr. Roy Weiser from NSWC Dahlgren. But we're not only focused on those technical focus areas from our commands. We're focused on the needs of the Navy and to the point that you made earlier, how specific to digital marketing, whatever the technology or services, we take a look at the requirements and the needs from our program offices, from our sponsors, from the DoD community, and try to make a direct connect as opposed to kind of like a general match of a technology. So the tech bridges are really there to bridge that gap where there may be a service or maybe a technology out there and you know that it's great, you know that it will help the military in some way, but you may not know specifically who needs that. We have taken the charge to understand specifically who will need that and to connect you to the right personnel at those program offices and also connect you to the right resources to kind of enable the next step beyond introduction. So forums like these where we talk about the existing tools within DoD to kind of enable that technology transfer is really what we're stood up for. I did want to make a comment though, and really give you my perspective of why I think these type of forums are so important. Everybody in this room knows that we have a very robust military industrial complex, right? We have very good partners with Northrop and with the Fortune 500 firms that have given us a great foundation for our capabilities within the military. What I feel is missing is the small business component, the innovators, the disruptors. That is the force multiplier that we need as a military to really take it to the next level. And as evidence in this room, they are out there and they're doing some great development, great technologies. And we have those needs. You know, we have documented, listed needs to integrate that technology, those advances into our operations. But there's a gap, right? There's a challenge. There's seemingly obstacles of getting those great ideas, those innovations into our spaces so that we can advance our capabilities. That's what the Tech Bridge is here for. That's what NavalX is here for. And that's why these type of forums are so important so that we can make you aware of the tools that are available to help bridge that gap and that we can be the agent to get you connected and engaged in a meaningful way where there's a mutually beneficial arrangement for both your company and for our mission. So with that being said, are there any questions that you guys would like to ask specific to the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge? I think there was one question here related to what we discussed earlier.
Anyhow, there's one thing I have a curiosity about. There's some programs that, you know, when you're talking about taking technology or maybe requirements from the fleet, there might be some ideas that maybe the fleet has. And there were some things that were already put in place, potentially like tech solutions or maybe swamp works that might be already there with ONR. And it was money funding, and I'm not sure where it's at, so I'll leave it to other folks. And I'm saying that the purpose of NavalX or Tech Bridge is to make the companies out there, and connect them with the requirements, because requirements are coming from the fleet, warfighter, and from other echelons, then, and to connect them with those folks. I believe there is RDT&E fund out there to help them to get these things and quickly transition to the fleet and to the warfighter. And that's something that, if you're not aware of it, it's another tool for you to use. That's something for you to discuss with, the folks in the management that are aware of these funding sources, and also to be used out there. So, but I mean, if that's your purpose, is connecting requirements up with funding sources. As far as the acquisition that I believe the gentleman talked about before, there's some reports that just came out recently that I saw that a lot of small businesses are leaving DoD environment because of great challenges that are there with acquisition. And I've been doing this for 20 years, my own company. I talked about 6B, CPA, clearance, and everything else. Great challenge out there for small businesses with the overhead involved. A lot of the small businesses are leaving. So it is a challenge there. Get something in place, and then having your own audited and approved accounting system. So there you go.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. And you're absolutely right. That's why we're here to break down those challenges, not just with the vendor community or the potential vendors and innovators, but also within our Navy and DoD itself, because not all of our program managers understand all of the tools that are available, like tech solutions, like those funds for that innovative and experimental research. We have to educate them as well. So that's where the tech bridges really fill those gaps to make that awareness on both sides. In the interest of time, I'm gonna ask that we hold questions, and we're gonna continue on with the program. There'll be plenty of time during the day today to bring up those issues, bring up those questions. We do very much so want to have an interactive engagement with the audience, both here and online, but we're a little bit behind schedule, so we're gonna move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerald. Would Roy and Julie please raise your hands so those in the room can see? Roy and Julie are the others who are part of the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. So there are 5 people. You have Roy, Julie, Gerald, Tina, and myself. There's 5 of us in the room that you can approach to ask your questions during break and at lunch. Thank you very much, both of you. So my name is Eileen Brewer, as I mentioned earlier. Each one of the tech bridges partner with a civilian setting so that they can have offices outside of the bases to make it easier for innovators and small businesses to meet with the tech bridges. The Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge office is on the first floor of this building inside of 757 Collab and 757 Startup Studios on the first floor. As Tina mentioned, Tech Bridge now has the opportunity for you to schedule a meeting with them directly on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of every month. If you go to the Tech Bridge on any of the social media platforms that we had up earlier, go to LinkedIn, preferably, you will see posts that talk about schedule a meeting with the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. We do what we call industry briefings, and you can book those. And then there's an intake form where we ask about you. At the bottom of that intake form, there's a Calendly link. You can select it and you can book your meeting. Once that's done, then we look at it on our side and then create that meeting for you. I mean, we clean it up a little bit and add a Zoom link in there and such so that you can have the meeting. If you're local in the area, you can request that meeting to be in person. They will be here in this building to meet with you in person. If you're not local, then we do the Zoom option. We also invite 4 other Tech Bridge directors to attend those meetings. So you're not just meeting with our local Tech Bridge, you're meeting with some of the others as well. And the attendance is as each one of those Tech Bridge directors are available, but there's always at least 1 or 2 of the Tech Bridges in those meetings. The 2nd and 4th Wednesdays, look at our social media at the Tech Bridge, LinkedIn to get more information on that. 757 Collab is the civilian partner, the PIA partner for the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. We're down on the first floor, like I said. We offer 3 different types of resources out into the community at no cost. We have the 757 Startup Studios, which is a physical space, first floor here, where we allow early stage startups 6 months free co-working space and incubator. So we have presentations and trainings once or twice a week for 6 months, no cost to the founders that are right at that phase where they're doing ideation, market research, product validation. We have applications open year round, and we bring in about every 6 months, we start a new cohort. So we have applications, I believe, are open now, but we'll have cohort swapping in July. And then we're looking at in the future being able to introduce new startups into that space monthly instead of every 6 months to have it more on a regular cadence. We have 757 Accelerate, which is an intensive 12-week training program. Right now, it happens once a year in the fall. Applications are open right now. Applications are only open for 4 weeks. They'll close at the end of May. This is for a little bit more advanced startups. We need at least one founder working full-time on the business, and we prefer that you have some customers and some revenue. What we do in those 12 weeks is assign you a lead mentor, and we customize your training based on the stage that you're at and the type of networks that you need to build. At the end of those 12 weeks, we take you out on what we call the Investor Roadshow, and we go to at least 3 different cities, and we have you pitch in front of a group of investors. So you'll meet at least 10 to 20 investors while you're in that program. We also give each one of those startups $20,000 of non-dilutive investing, like a grant for you to grow your business. That money is released in stages based on your participation and engagement during those 12 weeks. We have between 5 and 9 startups that go through that program every year, and we've seen them be very successful. We have one of the most successful ones is Hubley Surgical. They just raised $4 million from that event last November through February. They'll be passing FDA approval this summer and going to market. So it's very exciting to see that happening. We have 757 Angels. Angels is individuals who want to invest in Virginia-based startups or startups in the region or startups that can prove they're moving into the Virginia region, because they want to stimulate the economic development and growth in the region. The 757 Angels is going to be partnering with another angel group called Venture South. They'll become a chapter of Venture South, which will actually give the startups more access to more investors across the whole region. That takes effect on June 15. So just in a few weeks from now, it'll be 757 Angels, a chapter of Venture South. They have applications open 3 times per year where you can apply to pitch to them. They usually select between 3 and 5 and have them pitch to the chapters 3 times per year for investment. And they have put millions into the local economy through that avenue. So all of these resources are available at no cost to startups. We do focus on scalable, investable businesses, so very much technology based. But we do have a wide variety. We're agnostic, so we're not focusing just on military or DoD. We're agnostic. We have beverages, we have some consumer products, we have a lot of technology, a lot of SaaS products and B2B products. And that's it for me. And I'll pitch again that if you complete the survey at the end of the day, then you can go ahead and get all of the slides, and we're all available to talk to you during the breaks.
Volume. Can you try and see if you can turn it up? They were saying they were having a couple people were having a hard time, but maybe we just need to hold it up closer to our mouth. So I'm going to be really quick because I'm in charge of keeping us on schedule today and we're a little bit behind. So Tina Bove, we've been working with 757 Collab to support the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge for a little over a year now. So my contact information there, my colleague Mark Lange, our COO, is right here too. So please feel free to find us during breaks and have a conversation with us. But we are a local woman-owned small business, business development consulting firm, really working with small businesses and translating their technology into the government space and helping with contracting solutions. So we do a lot in the SBIR phase 3 world. We've stood up probably over 100 of those right now. So if a contracting solution is your issue, please come see us as well. So again, you will have access to these slides, and I am going to now bring up Mr. Bob Smith to get us kicked off with the content for today. So come on up, sir. you want to click or do you want?
If you, I can click. Ooh, all the power. You can take a break, get a coffee, whatever works. I'm going to walk around the room because I like to duck and weave. They don't need to see my face. Hi. Yeah. They don't need to see my face. Besides, just look at my picture because it's like 10 years ago and I still have dark hair. There's my email address for those that can't wait to do the survey. Email me now, and for a modicum deposit in Venmo, I'll get you the slides early. Couple of things. I was working out this morning, looking over the bay at all the amphibs out there getting worked on, and thinking about when one of those shows up on your doorstep and the Marines are knocking on that door, that's a lot of innovation. Okay. So don't get me wrong, the Navy does a pretty damn good job. We can keep getting better, and we do. And that's one of the reasons we're here. That's why we have the Tech Bridge, because we want to change that business model. How many small businesses in the room? How many of you with less than 20 employees? Okay. How long ago did Bill Gates start Microsoft? Took a generation, didn't it? Took a young man right out of college, didn't it? Guess what you can be in a generation? The next one. And SBIR is a part of that, how it can be done. The other thing is, a couple weeks ago, I was at South by Southwest. And if you remember, Friday, Silicon Valley Bank crashed. And I was kind of snarky there Saturday when I'm walking around with all these venture capitalists who on Thursday thought I was dust. And in the back of my mind, I kept going, how do you like me now? Which way do I point? That way. If I hit the right button, it goes much better. Okay, let's start at the end. First off, we're done. NavySBIR.com. Anything you need to know about this program can be found there. Don't need a picture, just remember NavySBIR.com. And remember, the slides are available Venmo, really cheap. FY22, to your right, $1.1 billion in phase 3s. Wait a second. The venture, actually the public venture fund I'm a part of, spends, well, actually we have about $1.5 billion in active investments. Our board of directors recapitalizes us at $500 million a year to give to American small business. So that 500 turns into $1 billion. Not a bad return on your taxpayers' investment because you're all paying a lot of taxes on that. How did we get there? We start with the Navy baking commercialization transition into the program. Before you ever see a topic on the street, we've already asked ourselves, what happens if it works? Because if it works, we already know a warfighter wants it. We know what program it's going to go into. We've thought about how we're going to transition it at the right time. And it's a lot of work to transition it at the right time. We do that up front, so we don't have those, I hate the word valley of death. Because valley of death connotes it's one big problem, one big solution. It's not. It's a continual chasms of challenge. We have so many things that have to get lined up, taken care of, thought of, adjusted, mitigated bits along the way for you to get to transition. We start with the topics. We know what we want. We want you to solve that problem. You can see how many proposals we get. Phase 1. What's a phase one? It's a paper document that says, if I get some real money, this is how I propose to solve your problem. It's all research. If you're a products or service oriented company, there's nothing SBIR can do for you unless you change it into a question. Because research is about answering that question. So you can always have a conversation. What if I can do it better? How would this work if I did this? What happens if I duct tape this onto my vehicle? Okay, we've done that a few times too. Phase one leads to phase two awards. Phase two, that's when you're going to deliver that prototype. Remember, you said in phase one, if you give me some real money, I'll deliver. Well, we're going to give you a contract and you better damn well deliver or our relationship is over. Okay, we'll get into some programs we do to help you along the way. But I've got to say, unabashedly, the Navy does it better than anybody else in DoD. And nobody can prove me wrong. You're talking about the ecosystem. You're part of it here. The Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge is part of it. Their PIA is part of it. It takes a lot of us to make it happen. And a lot of it has to do with your energy, your innovative way of wanting to do it differently or to be achieved. And that slide's wrong because I haven't listed all the people required to achieve transition commercialization. But I know for the most part, I've got to help get those people to the table. So we say yes up front so we don't waste each other's time. So when you sit down with somebody in the Navy, ask them what they're bringing to the table. Kind of nice if they bring cash. Do they have a contract vehicle? Do they have a need? Why are they doing this? Because eyes wide open, maybe it's not a good relationship if they don't know what they're doing. You don't have enough time in the day to waste it, right? You'd rather get it all done up front. So ask them, what are they bringing to the table? And hopefully they come with some of the answers because you don't even know all the questions. I've been around the Navy for over 40 years now, and I still don't understand what they do half the time. Okay, and I'm an expert, which is kind of scary. But these are the folks that we, the program, the Tech Bridge, help bring to the table so we can get to yes up front. How do you participate? Nice QRC codes. Use them. They'll take you to the websites with more information than you'll ever want. Save it to the night when you're having trouble sleeping. Save it to some, how many company of two here doing it all? Okay, so not only do you have to understand the program, you're also HR, comptroller, security, cybersecurity. So just a few things on your plate. Okay. Number two, research the topics. You want to get paid. You want to get paid for your passion, right? Because if you're not an electrical engineer, I hope you don't apply to electrical topics. How am I going to adapt my passion to solving the Navy problem? We're the government, and it's all George Washington's fault. Because if he had become a king instead of a president, we wouldn't have a constitution. We wouldn't have a Congress overlaying all the rules we have to make it fair, full, and open competition in the United States. Then I could just pick you, okay, assuming, you know, Game of Thrones and I'm still around, right? You got to read the instructions. There's nothing worse than getting a notice that you didn't comply. You forgot one piece of paper. wait a second, it's only one piece of paper. Yes, but remember, the other 2,000 companies got it right. And by the rules, you're out this time. So don't do that to yourself. We make it easy. We have the templates. Just fill them in. It's easier than a term paper. Kind of, sort of, maybe. Guess where we're at right now? In the middle of the second largest solicitation of the year. DoD has pretty much a drumbeat, 3 solicitations. The .1 and A, the .1 signifies SBIR, A is STTR. Anybody know the difference between an SBIR topic and an STTR topic? I can have you explain how to do it. STTR the only difference is it requires that you have a subcontractor research institution doing part of that work. It also has twice the selection rate because small businesses hate to work with other people. So learn to get along with your neighbors and you've got a better shot. Pre-release, show of hands, true or false, or true. If it's true, raise your hand. I should never, ever talk to my customer. Why aren't the hands up? Because half of you will not contact the technical point of contact on that topic. Why didn't you reach out to make sure what you think you read is what they thought they wrote? You come to me after solicitation closes and you weren't selected. And I ask you, did you talk to the TPOC? And you say no. Sympathy meter, -10. You didn't do your homework. Pre-release, your opportunity to reach out and talk. Open period, you can still reach out and talk. But your question or answer will be posted on the web. So that is definitely the point where you want to make sure your intellectual property is out there for all to see. No. Normally it's open for kind of like technical questions. Hey, I read here you wanted 10 pages over here. I said you wanted 20. Which is it? And our answer normally is, well, if you'd read the instructions, you'd know the difference. Closed, we're not talking to you anymore because we're going into selection process. Keep your eyes open. How many people have heard about the open topic process? How many have participated in the open topic process? How many people like the open topic process? Okay. So the Navy's open topic is not like my sister service's open topic. It's bounded by what I need, but a different conversation. I'm going to give you guardrails on the areas we're looking at. You tell me how you're going to adapt your currently available commercial technology to meet our needs. It's going to be a really quick phase 1. It's going to be a tailored phase 2. So if you only need 9 months to adapt it at phase 2, instead of getting 2 years, we're going to give you 9 months. If you need more money than the 1.8 to adapt it, we'll go look for it because we want to transition. Pre-release in June, open in July. 4 to 5 topics, broad in nature, but we're going to call them open because that's what Congress requires. They're not nearly as specific as a traditional topic. We're going to open an aperture still within mind. We've already thought about if it works, where do we hope it will go? What do we look at? It's your proposal. The strength of your proposal, the strength of your team. Remember, If you're not an electrical engineer, I don't hope you put a non-electrical engineer team together to solve that problem. Okay. Yeah, you need someone with a business degree. You need someone that went to law school. Well, you need someone that understands contracts on your team, but they shouldn't be part of their research team. So think about it. And your transition plan. Remember reading that topic? Remember talking to the TPOC? Guess what you can forget when you talk to the TPOC? Where they planned it to go. They might not say, hey, this is specific to DDG, but it will be, this is something we're going to use on our surface combat. So get close. What I don't want to hear is your primary transition target is the commercial market. They should the Navy spend the little bit of money it has on you to become a multimillionaire in the commercial market. Solve my problem first, then go off and become a multimillionaire. Actually, you can become a millionaire with the Navy, then go off and see Silicon Valley and get even more money. But right now they're not making loans, so it's a little difficult. You see the selection rates, how to move from phase 1 to phase 2? Make sure your customer right now in that phase 1 is that TPOC. If you don't keep them happy, you're not going to get to phase 2. And at phase 2, we're going to start involving the warfighter, the acquisition folks. We want to keep them happy. But for now, make sure you and the TPOC are sympathetic, got your act together, want to work together. It's building a relationship. It takes time. Do you think the Navy is going to trust you with your software solution, put it in the Combat Operations Center on a carrier who's about to deploy? I don't think so. But over time, we'll learn to trust each other. Over time, I can understand that you will deliver at scale. And that's what we want. And it gives you time to grow your company. So a generation from now, you can be the next Bill Gates. In a generation, you can be the next iRobot, who no longer works with the Navy, by the way. Their division that does robots still works with us. But iRobot started as a Navy SBIR company a generation ago. And they're the overnight success. Years in the making. Unique. We keep looking for ways to simplify all of the stuff that we're required to do that makes your life a living hell, that drives you away from working with the Navy. And one of those is the phase 2 proposal. We'll start with a simplified proposal. You're in the ballpark, we like it, give me a full proposal. Sometimes I go, you're not cutting the mustard, save your time. You know, no was not the answer you want, but at least I gave you an answer, right? It's better to know if this relationship isn't going anywhere. Because guess what? Maybe you're not a good match with the Navy. There's $4 billion in SBIR money, $2 billion within DoD, $2 billion outside of DoD. Maybe you're a better match with NAVSEA. I don't know, but this is how we find out. You don't need to worry about the different kinds of phase 2s. Just understand we know how to work it so we can move your technology to that point of commercialization. We're always looking for ways to get that solution to the warfighter faster. And these are some of the authorities we do. Use the ecosystem. We know how to work it. We should be upfront, honest, and transparent with you as to what we're doing, how we think it can be done, when we think it can be done. That's how we do it. NavySBIR.com. It's all right there. The Holy Grail, phase 3. You did such good work. Someone else is going to spend their money. I'm a 3% program, $500 million. Do the reverse math for me, please. Where's the other 97 cents on the dollar? This is where authorities come in. There are no SBIR dollars involved in phase 3. It's all about extending, deriving, completing your technology. Here we go. Who has the largest air force in the world? Army, by rotorcraft. Both the Navy and the Marine Corps can't, Navy and the Air Force can't match them. So just maybe your technology can be used by a sister service. If you want autonomous, unmanned, whatever systems, maybe the Navy will adopt a NASA topics. Because if robots can work on Mars, pretty sure we can use some of that for the robots we have at the bottom of the ocean. We adopt NASA topics all the time. We built a guidebook for all the contracts officers that haven't done phase 3 contracts. Understand that they can do sole source contracts without going to jail. Because they went to school and were taught if you give a sole source contract, you'll go to jail. What makes us different? We already talked about transition to Navy needs. Naval, sorry for any Marines in the room, simplify. I was a West Coast Marine, so you East Coast people. Like we said, we reduced our proposals to 10 pages. And you know the one complaint we hear from the small businesses? It's so hard to cram everything I can do into 10 pages. Be easy on yourself. We give you your money. We award the contracts faster. We give you more of it up front. And we got transition programs. You're going to hear about some of those today. Why do we have transition programs in the Navy? Simple proposition. If you're not successful, we're not successful. And you'd be amazed how many of you don't understand what it takes when we say at the end of your phase 2, congratulations, great job, loved your technology. Your prototype was the bomb. Can I get 100 of them next month? I need 1,000 of them at the end of the year. We plan to procure 5,000 over the, and you answer like a company once answered. Engineers always looking at his feet. You don't understand. Mom doesn't sew that fast. True story. Okay. So let's talk about how are you going to deliver at scale in 5 to 7 years. Things we do, and it works really well, is we look at leveraging the authorities for that second phase 2. Cross agency, we talked about how I steal things from NASA and vice versa. Matching funds. Guess what? If it really is important, I have the program office bring their cash with them. So your $1.8 million phase 2 can now be whatever we want to make. And that tells a lot when the program office says, I want this so bad. I trust them so much. I want to throw a lot of cash at it. And every one of our commands, and you're going to hear from a couple of them today, have people there to help you and that TPOC and that PM who's still learning how to spell Navy, get your technology in the hands of the warfighter. More resources, SBIR.com, NavySiberSearch.com. Why is that website important? That's where you can see everything we've ever done in the SBIR program. Everything. Every topic we've ever had, every award ever made. So if you see your technology, let's go back to electrical in topics, and you see topics that are year in and year out. Because we keep tweaking, getting better at that. And all of a sudden, you no longer see that topic. There's only 2 reasons for that. I either solved the problem, or it's no longer a priority. Still have that problem, but I have even bigger problems. 2 points of contact on each topic. the TPOC who made that award, give them a call. So how's life in materials these days? We solved it, we moved them. Okay, then I don't need to worry about that one. Or we didn't quite get there. Interesting, that's what my company does. This is what we can adapt. No, I'll see you the next cycle. I think I'll bring that topic back. Or a variation of that topic, because we can progress the technology, right? You also get the company point of contact that won the award. How was it working with the Navy? Worst experience of my life. I couldn't spell Navy, didn't know where it was going to go, you know, or just didn't work faster. Or great experience. TPOC really knew what we're going to do. We had an idea where we're going to go, but we hit a technical roadblock. We didn't get across the finish line. Oh, what was your shortfall? I'll be damned if that's not what I do. Let's talk. How many small businesses do you think have small businesses as their subcontractors? How many of our small businesses have their primes as their subcontractor? A lot. Because guess what? Wouldn't it be nice if Lockheed Martin was your subcontractor on the system that's going to go on the platform? They have a contract for delivering to the Navy. Oh, by the way, Lockheed Martin last year, I think, helped transition a few $100 million of Navy or SBIR into the platforms. So the primes do want to work with you because we keep beating the crap out of them to work with you. APAC, that comes back to us. There are a lot of resources out there to help you achieve your thing. So use them. Ask the questions. I'll be around all day, I think, for most of it. I think we're in the backup, but there you go. There's more than just Navy, although I love us best. I think we'll stop there, right? Okay.
So there was one question online asking if there are going to be TPOCs for the open topic. So the answer is yes. Okay, so we'll look for that.
There's always a TPOC with our topics. We just don't throw them out there. And ours are not the congratulations, you're one, don't talk to me again. Yeah.
Super quick question. So just cold reach out to the TPOCs?
So actually a great question. Cold reach out to TPOC? Absolutely. Unless it's about current solicitation. And then they've been trained by contract, never, ever talk to you except for the pre-release period. Okay. But no, how else am I going to get that conversation going? Our TPOCs are the subject matter experts, right? They don't know everything like me. Tech bridges can also help connect. Tech bridges are all about connecting. Use those available resources.
We are a little bit behind schedule. Bob will be here during the break. He'll be here during lunch. He's available, and some of you booked one-on-one sessions with him later this afternoon. So you can reach out to him while he's trying to have his lunch.
Great. Jason, if you can come on up. Now we're going to hear from the NAVSEA SBIR sitter office.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I will try to get us back on schedule. Bob and I usually don't speak in the same room at the same time, so a lot of my slides are kind of duplicative of what he just went over, so we can kind of skip through these fairly quick. But like was said, I'm Jason Shroepfer. I'm the program manager for the NAVSEA, SBIR, and STTR program. I'm aligned with the Chief Technology Office within NAVSEA. my email address, and yes, it is spelled correct, so that works. Next slide, please. So Bob already kind of went over what the programs are. Just to foot stomp a little bit, SBIR's been around since 1982, so we're 40 plus years. So we're a very stable program, been doing this for quite a while. STTR is 10 years younger, but again, a very stable program that's been around for a while. Next. We already kind of went into this a little bit. Kind of highlight the center portion there. That's how we're structured at NAVSEA. We have 6 portfolios under my umbrella, one for each of the PEOs in NAVSEA. So each ship platform, so carriers, surface combatants, unmanned systems, submarines. And then we also have one that's aligned to the directorates in NAVSEA. So 6 total portfolios. And we do have a technology manager or a portfolio manager that's embedded with each one of these groups. So they kind of oversee the portfolio or the projects that align to that PEO. So they're the ones that are a little more technical savvy than I am. And they make sure that the projects and the topics are meeting the needs of that particular PEO or that platform. Just some numbers across the bottom there. That's kind of the scope of my program. So over the last 5 years, that's what we invested in phase 1s and phase 2s. So when you look at it, $0.6 billion, $600 million that we put in to get 2.4 billion out on transitions. So we're doing pretty good. And just one quick caveat on the phase 3s. I think we're really good at finding phase 3s. That's why the Navy does so well and why we're better than our sister services. But our visibility is very limited on phase 3s. So we don't know about most of them is my guess. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's probably quite a bit larger than that. So I would really be interested in figuring out a way to actually capture those metrics, because I'd love to know how successful we actually are. Next, please. Just kind of a process overview. Some syscoms and some other services and agencies develop topics in a fairly short amount of time. Ours typically takes 7 to 8 months to develop. Kind of tying back to what Bob was talking, that's because we're talking to the transition partners, talking to the programs that are eventually going to adopt these projects and hopefully buy them in phase 3. So we're working with them early on before we even put pen to paper on coming up with a topic. We're already sitting down saying, what is it that you guys need? And 5, 6 years from now, if we can be successful and give you a couple of solutions, is it going to go somewhere? So that's kind of the big thing here is that we work a lot upfront doing the topic development, and the rest of the process Bob kind of summarized. So next. Don't think we went through this very much, but in order to play in SBIR, you have to be a US based company, built for profit, and have less than 500 people. So those are basically the only rules to participate. Next. Just some of the work requirements. With STTR, you do have to partner with a research institution. Could be a college, university, FFRDC, or any other kind of nonprofit research organization. The work requirement breakdown for STTR, the company has to do at least 40% of the work. And then the research institute subcontractor has to do at least 30. So if you do the math, that only comes up to 70%. That other 30, wherever you want to put it. It can be a second subcontractor. The company can do 60%, or the college can do 50%, as long as it meets that minimum requirement. And then the work requirements in SBIR for a phase 1, the company has to do 66% of the work, and then they have to do half of it in phase 2. So everything else can be subcontracted or teamed or partnered or however you want to structure it. Next slide. Skip that one. That's the solicitation schedule that Bob went over. Going back to our topics again. Like I said, we do work a lot up front to make sure that this happens. Some of our driving documents, the National Defense Strategy and the NAVSEA campaign plan, we do tie all of our topics to these 2 documents to make sure that we're meeting. not only NAVSEA's needs, but the Navy's needs, Pentagon, everybody's requirements. So that's why we're able to be successful in getting a lot of the projects that we work on into phase 3. Because we're making sure early on that we're tying it to the requirements of pretty much everybody. Next. One of the other key benefits to the program is reaching back. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but there is no limitation on the amount of time that can elapse between contracts. So if you had a phase 2 back in 1990, and it kind of dried up and didn't really go anywhere because the Navy wasn't ready for it, or just had to wait for the technology to evolve a little bit more, we can go back to that, blow the dust off of it and revive that contract or revive that project. So that this can go back, theoretically, all the way back to 1982 when the program started. We can reach back to any award. You can do, for a phase 3, you can reach back to any phase 1. So any company, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands there have been over the years. It is not agency specific. So we could reach back to, like Bob was mentioning, we do a lot of work with NASA or Air Force, or whoever, Department of Energy. We could reach back to one of their topics from 30 years ago. And as long as what we're doing either derives from that topic, extends it, or is a logical conclusion, those are the 3 key words within the legislation for SBIR. As long as we satisfy one of those requirements, we can go ahead and do another award, sole source, no competition. So that's one of the critical factors that a lot of people are not aware of. Next slide, please. CRP, this is where we ask the program money to come to the table with some money. We do require at NAVSEA, actually all of us, we do require a 1-for-1 match for every dollar that I'm going to invest over the initial 1.8 million. But then, like Bob said, the amount of money that the program office comes to the table with is not limited. So it could be a $3.6 million contract. If they want to pony up a little bit more, it could be a $7 million contract. No real limitations there, but we are limited by how much SBIR money we can put on it. So I can only go up to 3.6 total if somebody else gives me 1.8. So that's, the limits of what I'm able to do, but the program office doesn't have those limitations. Next. Talked about that. Next slide, please. And this is just, I believe this is one of Bob's old slides. So this is Navy-wide. So this is beyond just my portfolio, but this is our transitions by state over the last 5 years, I believe. Yeah, ending in 22. So for a 5-year period, 3,400 plus funding actions, phase 3 funding actions, over 1,000 contracts, and over $4 billion invested in phase 3, just for Department of Navy. The next slide breaks that down a little bit more. Okay, when Bob mentioned that we are better than all of the other DoD programs, this is the rest of DoD. Very, very tiny percentage. This is the other Navy Syscoms. My partner, Kristi, in the back, NAVAIR, is right here. And then I'm up here at the top. So you can see the blue bars, we are dramatically better at transitioning our projects into phase 3 than anybody else. And again, that's because we focus on working with the technical community, or the program offices, the transition partners from the get-go. So before we even start anything, we know where it's going to go, and we start working on planning that out. We start palming for money. We start writing acquisition strategies, all that kind of stuff as early as we can. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go into this because the STT program manager is in the back of the room, and he's going to talk to you later. Next. That's it. Okay. And again, I'll be here all day, so I'll take questions now.
We're gonna have Kristi come on up and speak on the NAVAIR Supersitter program, and then we've saved some time right before we take a break for you to answer or to take questions for both of you. So, Kristi.
Do you want me to click? Yeah, I don't mind. All right, thank you. All right, I'm Kristi DePriest. I'm with the NAVAIR SBIR program, or Kristi Wigman, which is what my badge says. I just underwent a name change. So if you've seen the two different names, Wigman or DePriest, they're both me, but it'll be DePriest moving forward. So that's what's on here. So I am going to mostly talk to you a little bit about what NAVAIR is and what we do at NAVAIR, in case you aren't as familiar with the type of technologies that we're looking for, and what kind of products we made. So our role for NAVAIR is we are in charge of naval aviation. So any aircraft that takes off or lands on a ship. And it's not just that we develop those platforms, we build those platforms, but we're also responsible for all of the analysis and decision support that goes into those platforms, the maintenance of those platforms, the training for the pilots flying those platforms. It's a very broad technology area that we do. And obviously we are looking to enable the fleet to be able to compete in the future environment. One of the main elements of that is kind of our guiding North Star down there at the bottom is delivering warfighting capability that the fleet needs at a cost that we can afford. And we recognize that small business is a huge part of that. Our small business partners are oftentimes able to innovate faster than their large business counterparts, and they're able to do it at a cost that is more affordable for us to integrate into our system. So that's why SBIR is a really big part of our acquisition plan at NAVAIR, and that's the value that we really, believe that small business community brings to us. So just to explain a little bit about NAVAIR and where we're located, our headquarters is in Pax River, Maryland. That's where I'm from, about 3 hours north of here, so not too far. And then we also have two warfare centers. We have the aircraft division and the weapons division. The aircraft division has 3 locations on the East Coast. We're in Lakehurst, New Jersey, Pax River, Maryland, and also down in Orlando, Florida. And then we have the warfare division, which is out in California in Point Mugu and China Lake. And then we also have a variety of fleet readiness centers, which is where we do all of the maintenance of our aircraft. And you can see those are up and down both coasts and also out in Astugi, Japan. We also have 5 PEOs, which are our major product lines, and I'll talk about them in just a moment. So the aircraft division, as I mentioned, is in those 3 locations on the East Coast. And this is where we have all of our technology development that goes into, everything that goes inside of our aircraft, not just the vehicles themselves, but the propulsion systems, the crew systems, the support systems, the launch and recovery of those aircraft from the ship deck, and as well as the training and the human performance parameters. Our weapons division is, of course, in charge of weapons that are carried on the aircraft, and you can see some of the different technology areas that are involved in that. Our COM FRC, these are fleet readiness centers, and as I mentioned, they're responsible for the maintenance and sustainment of all of our aircraft, and a lot of the technology investments that we make are ones that we plan to utilize at these centers as well. So these are our 5 product lines. As Bob mentioned, every topic that we advertise has a customer in mind. It is always one of these customers. So one of these PEOs has endorsed the topic before we ever even advertise it, at least one of them. Sometimes it's multiple of them. And they are basically the transition sponsor for your technology. And they are responsible for knowing where this is going to go and where it'll be integrated if it is successful. So first we have, and I'm realizing these are not actually the ones I thought they were. So these are the NAVAIR products, but what I will go back. Actually, let me see if I can go back and I realize that's not the slide I thought it was. We'll do it here with the PEOs. So we have PEOT, which is our tactical aircraft. So those are all of our fighter jets. Then we have PEO-A, which is Air ASW, and also our rotorcraft. And then we have PEO UNW, which is unmanned systems and weapons. PEO Common Systems, which is all of the training and the like avionics equipment, things that are common across all platforms. And then also JSF for the F-35, which is, of course, because it is such a large platform, it's still its own PEO. Going forward, sorry about that. So these are some of the capability priorities that we have right now. These are the areas that we are looking to invest in, and these are the areas that you'll probably see a lot of our SBIR and STTR topics showing up in. These are kind of the main drivers that we have right now in research and development at NAVAIR. So improving current and future readiness. This is a main driver, and it is something that we are looking for a lot of technology to go into, that we need not just materials that can hold up longer, but we need AI in our supply chain. We need to be able to get repairs to our aircraft faster in more difficult environments, and make sure that our aircraft are ready to take off and they're not stuck waiting for some maintenance upgrade that is taking way more months than it was originally planned to be. Also just increasing capability and lethality overall. We need our aircraft to be able to fly faster, to fly longer ranges, to be more survivable. We need long range fires. There's a lot of technologies going into that. And then also we have a lot of new platforms coming on board. Future Vertical Lift is the initiative between both the NAVAIR and the Marine Corps that is looking for what is that next rotorcraft capability going to be, as well as next generation air dominance, looking to see what is our next 6th gen fighter that is going to be our next platform that we're promoting after the JSF. These are research areas of interest. I'm not going to read this slide, but I hear if you submit a survey, you get copies of the slides, or if you Venmo Bob, whichever one you prefer. But the point of this is to just show how broad the areas of research that we're looking for are. I meet a lot of companies that say, yeah, I have, this technology I'm working on, but it doesn't apply to the Navy. It's not a defense related technology. You'd be surprised at what technologies out there can actually be used for defense purposes. As I mentioned, it's not just, we make aircraft. You don't have to be someone who builds a UAV. It could be something that we use for virtual training. It could be something, that we use to improve communications, to do remote maintenance, to improve our, like I said, put AI in our supply chain. There's a lot of technologies out there that can be applied to the Navy and to NAVAIR. And so it really is a broad area, and I highly, recommend, thinking broadly about it when you're looking at these areas. This is our SBIR program specifically. So just to talk about the scope of our program, this is our FY22 kind of end of year summary. We were at about $100 million for SBIR and about $15 million for STTR last year. Our budget this year is up about 15%. So those numbers will be higher for FY23. You can see how many contracts we awarded last year. And our phase 3 contract value, these are just the phase 3s that we managed in our office. As Jason mentioned, there's so many people, any contract that follows a phase 2 contract, whether it's, with the Navy or whether it's with someone else, is considered a phase 3 contract, and we don't always have visibility into the full scope of them. We do have an office. We have a team in my office that their entire job is helping to facilitate phase 3 contracts. They work with the customer to get all the paperwork together. They work with the company to get the statement of work together. And we have dedicated phase 3 contracting officers that's all they do is award SBIR phase 3. So this number here, that 211 million, is just the ones that just our office processed for NAVAIR last year. And then you can also see kind of how our topics are distributed amongst those PEOs. PEO T and PEO A are usually our leaders. They kind of go back and forth between who's bigger one year or the other. But then common systems, even though they're a small piece of the pie, they are one of our best in transition. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea. Last year, we only had 28 topics advertised. We actually only did one BAA. last year, but we will be participating in both BAAs this year. And so that number should just about double for 23, and it should stay consistent moving forward. This is just to give you an idea of what our contracting amounts are. So we do the standard 140K, 100K for the phase 1 in the option. You can see the time frames there. When we do select to phase 2, our base amount is usually that $1 million with a 300K option. That is our standard phase 2 contract. We do occasionally have ones that are larger, ones that are smaller, depending on the technology, but the majority of them fit that profile. We have recently extended our period of performance to 42 months for that phase 2 contract. We were running into a lot of small businesses. Almost the majority of our contracts, the small businesses were needing a period of performance extensions based on supply chain issues, based on COVID issues, based on delays in maybe testing their technology that were on our side. So we have now extended that period of performance. You can have up to 42 months to perform on that initial phase 2 contract. And then we have a variety of CRP strategies. So Jason covered a little bit about what CRP is, the Commercialization Readiness Program. This is an internal process that we go through to identify of all of our active phase 2 contracts. Are there contracts out there that have high priority requirements for the PMAs that could use some additional funding to get to phase 3? That they need some additional technology development, they need to demonstrate their technology at a test event. And we go through an internal process to identify what are the best contracts that we can invest just a little bit more SBIR money to try and get it where it needs to be. We have a variety of ways we can do that. We can do that with an enhancement where we're doing that one-to-one matching of a program funding. We can do a full-on second phase 2. We call it a 2.5, where we do another 2.5 year, $1.3 million contract. Or we can do an expansion. We can take your original phase 2 contract and we can just put some additional funding right onto that contract vehicle. That's usually the fastest way to do it, to get you to that test event or to get you to that demonstration event that you need. And again, ultimately, the goal is to get everyone to phase 3. I'm not going to go too far into demonstration and experimentation because you actually have the Navy experimentation cell here. They're going to be briefing later today, but the major point of this slide is just that this is also something that we are set up to help you to do. We have a point of contact within our office who works very closely with SBIR companies to get them into demonstration events, to get them experimentation opportunities for their technologies, to get the funding that they need for any kind of test and evaluation. They work not only within the NAVAIR groups that are in charge of that activity, but also with the Navy group that promote that activity as well. So the main point of this is we recognize that this is generally the big step that we need to get that customer to ultimately commit the phase 3 dollars, is we need to be able to show that your technology was successful in a relevant environment. And so we are set up to make sure that you can get there, if not in your first phase 2, then with a little bit of follow-on funding, and we will help you figure out how to do that. You already heard that there is a BAA that is open right now. NAVAIR does have 18 SBIR topics in that BAA and 5 STTR topics. As Bob mentioned, the pre-release is right now. So now is that time period where you can reach out to those TPOCs and ask questions. And they are prepared for that. So they know that this is the time period. They have been warned so that this, small businesses will contact them and ask questions. So please do not hesitate to do that. Bob also mentioned the open topic. So you've already seen these dates. But do just really want to emphasize checking out that open topic, although it'll be more of a broad area of focus, not open. It is going to be a lot more flexible than our traditional focus topics. And we have a lot of energy built up at this one at NAVAIR, and we're really looking forward to seeing what small businesses can provide to this. So definitely recommend checking that one out this summer. And then finally, this is just a variety of the ways that you can connect with NAVAIR via social media. And that's it for me.
Have kind of answered it already.
There was one question online specifically to how NAVAIR is approaching the required open topic as far as accessing the technologies proposed there. And I know Bob had mentioned maybe 4 wider topics. Are any like specific to maybe NAVAIR than, you know, Jason and NAVSEA, or is it?
Yeah, the way I believe it's going to happen, knowing that not everything has been finalized for the BAA, the way it's currently looking like it's going to be is it's going to be a very broad capability area, and there are going to be kind of subtopics under that capability area that some of them will be, you know, this is for NAVAIR, this is for NAVSEA. So when you do submit a proposal, you will know who you are submitting to. You are either submitting to NAVAIR or NAVSEA or, you know, NAVAIR or, you know, Marine Corps, any of the other Navy partners that are participating in that. So you will be submitting specifically to one of those.
No questions. And I didn't see any pop back up. There's one. Yeah. Okay.
Simple question. What is BAA?
BAA is Broad Agency Announcement. That is just the government term for us publishing basically what we're putting out there, requesting proposals to respond to. So that is just the term for what we post in order for you to know what we're looking for and how to submit those proposals as well. It's basically the instruction.
Oh, sure. So this is probably targeted more at the NAVSEA presentation, but I think both of you could answer it. In terms of the FFRDCs, obviously they're bigger organizations. They tend to drive the ship a lot in a lot of the planning conversations. What do you recommend? And probably the answer is going through the tech bridge. But like, what do you recommend as opposed to academic institutions working with the FFRDCs? Like, what do you recommend as a process for engaging on that under BAAs with your program?
Excellent, smart ass. No, I guess I would try to focus on that work. I mean, any of the like the research labs, we work with them quite a bit. There are, you know, universities that we see more frequently. You know, like Penn State is one that we work a lot with. Yeah, I really can't give you a great answer. I would say find, you know, an investigator or a researcher that is, you know, pretty adept in the area that you're looking at, and just target them.
One thing I will mention, Bob mentioned that NavySBIRsearch.com site. Use that site. Go out and find a previous contract that FFRDC, you know, was on, and who was the point of contact for that, and maybe start there. That site is a great site. Even if you want to apply to an STTR topic, but you don't know what universities are working in that area, go out there and find, you know, what are other STTRs that have been published in that area, what universities performed on that. We actually get that question from universities a lot, where the universities say, I want to apply to an STTR topic, but I don't know what small businesses to partner with. And we tell them, go use the search site, find your technology area that, you know, if you want to, if you're doing materials research, go and find small businesses that have won SBIR awards for materials research and reach out to those PIs and see if they're interested in partnering with you on a future topic.
Just one quick addition. We do have a guy in my office that this is his job, is to kind of facilitate these relationships and work with the universities and the FFRDCs and stuff. Right back there taking pictures of me. Paul Basola. He's our outreachy guy that does partnership development. So if you're having troubles or you need assistance, reach out to Paul. He'd be more than happy to help you kind of chase that down.
Yeah, so kind of rephrasing a similar / corollary / follow-up question. Are there specific set-asides, carve-outs, or up-scores for small businesses in Justice 40 zones, or if you have some other designated marker, or conversely, do you like seeing the same universities and research institutions over and over because you know that they can perform?
Everything that we look is based on the technical merit of the proposal. It's irrelevant to us who you partner with, as long as they meet those minimum requirements.
And as far as the small business set asides, we do track that information, but it is not a factor in determining which small business gets selected. So we do track it so that we can report on it, but it doesn't affect your evaluations at all.
So are these, okay, so there's a lot of jargon that's being thrown around here that I'm not familiar with. These open topics, is this the same thing as a solicitation or a bid? And are they posted on, I think it's sam.gov that we are told to go to find?
Yeah, they are posted on sam.gov as well as the site that Bob provided, that Navy SBIR site, and they're also out on the DoD SBIR site, but you can get to them through sam.gov as well. The open topic is different in that our traditional topics are more focused. They basically tell you exactly the problem we want you to solve. And like I said, they're tailored for a specific customer and a specific requirement. And so there is only so much, we still want innovative proposals, but you're in a very narrow area of specifically what is the problem that we want you to solve. The open topic is new. This is the first year we're doing this variation of the Navy open topic. It was required as part of the SBIR reauthorization last year. As Bob mentioned, we have Congress that is constantly giving us, new requirements to meet. This was one of them, and this is probably a very good one, which we are now required to do at least one open topic a year, where it is something that is broader, that you have more flexibility in what you propose to that. So that's why the difference in the language is it's going to be a much broader, more open than our traditional topics.